Hey there everybody, I'm Joe's Disney Guy and welcome to another Disney Guy review. Today we'll be taking our first steps into the wartime era. Now, a disclaimer before we get going. Obviously these films are very different from the more traditional Disney films that we've looked at already, so information about them can be a bit scarce at times, but I will try my best to get as much as I can for you guys. So with all of that out of the way, let's look at Disney's first foray south of the border, Saludos Amigos. In 1933, U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt enacted a foreign policy with South America known as the Good Neighbor Policy. Yes, we're going to delve into some American history here. Don't worry, it won't be as bad as high school. I don't give tests at the end of my videos. Politically, this meant that the U.S. wouldn't interfere in the affairs of South American countries, but socially, it essentially meant that we were going to try and be more friendly with and get a better understanding of our neighbors to the south. In 1940, with World War II raging overseas, FDR created the Office of the Coordinator Inter-American Affairs, or CIAA for short, to try and quell Nazi influence in South America as well as promote goodwill towards the U.S., and appointed businessman Nelson Rockefeller as the head of the organization. See, you made it through my history lesson. That wasn't so bad now, was it? Meanwhile, the Disney studio was having its own issues. The war had essentially cut off the European market, which put Disney in dire financial straits, and there was unrest within the studio as well, which saw the animators go on strike in May of 1941. With all of this going on, Rockefeller approached Disney in 1941 and proposed that Walt take a Goodwill Tour of South America in order to release a film that could be distributed in North, Central, and South America. The idea was simple. South Americans love Disney animation, Disney cartoons weren't really getting into most of Europe anyway, and this would be a good way to display the United States in a positive light towards South America. Rockefeller offered Walt for the trip to be commissioned by the US government, and even guaranteed that the government would ensure Disney got a loan if the movie failed at the box office. With such little financial risk and looking for a way to get out of the studio until tensions from the strike calmed down, Walt took up Rockefeller on the offer and left for South America in August of 1941. The plan for the Goodwill Tour was to take 10 weeks to visit all different parts of South America. By the way, this is the part of the video where I apologize profusely for my pronunciation of Spanish words. You've been warned. The first part of the tour, which consisted of 18 people including Walt and his wife, started in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and visited Montevideo, Uruguay, Colonia, Uruguay, Buenos Aires, Argentina, Mendoza, Argentina, La Paz, Bolivia, and Lake Titicaca. Quickly, it became apparent that Walt and his animations were truly celebrities in South America, as the animators were greeted with open arms nearly everywhere they went. The schools in Colonia actually closed for the day so that the kids could go meet the creator of Mickey Mouse. Man, I wish that my schools would have closed for awesome reasons like that. The process for the animators was simple on the tour. The group would be taken around the area and shown many of the finest aspects and tourist attractions of the country in order to immerse themselves in the culture and get ideas for what to put in the film. Various members of the local press as well as local artists and writers would also meet with the Disney crew to further enhance their understanding of South America. Walt brought along a 16mm video camera to record footage of South America. Though he didn't quite get everything. Upon returning home, the crew actually had to get back into the clothes that they wore on the trip and stage boarding on a plane because Walt realized that they actually had no footage of it. While the artists drew much of what they saw right then and there, whether it was a background or even a character idea, some of which were used in Saludos Amigos and others which were saved for later. The crew would then go back to a makeshift studio that they made in their hotel and further flesh out their story ideas. And when I say in their hotel, I don't mean in a conference room or something, I mean like literally in their hotel room. It's just a testament to the fact that the Disney crew was so good, they can make a movie literally anywhere. The artists used just about anything and everything that they saw to come up with characters and story ideas that stayed authentic to the South American culture. For example, even on a simple plane ride through the Andes, the animators passed Aconcagua, the tallest mountain in South America, which spawned not only a character out of the mountain, but also an entire story about a tiny plane named Pedro. But arguably the most important character created for Saludos Amigos came to be when the crew saw a green parrot that is native to Rio de Janeiro. The parrot ended up being turned into a character that can embody all of Brazil named Jose Carioca. A Carioca, for those of you who don't know, is somebody from Rio de Janeiro. Jose was also dressed up in the clothes of a malandros, also known as a ladies' man. Because, I mean, come on. When you can samba like Jose, of course you're a ladies' man. The writers purposely made sure to make Jose Carioca overly friendly and put him in a perpetually good mood, as a way to honor and represent the Brazilian people. Jose Oliveira, a Brazilian voice actor, was chosen to voice this new character and actually became the first Disney voice actor ever to receive an on-screen credit for his work. Much time was also spent by the crew researching both visual details of South America as well as the culture. Dance was one of the major things Walt and the animators studied, and in some cases participated in. Some of the dances studied for the film was the Brazilian samba and Argentinian folk dances such as the gato and the zamba. Oh, come on now, samba and zamba? I'm having a hard enough time with these Spanish terms. How are you guys making them sound the same? The gaucho, or South American cowboy, was also the subject of intense study by the animators. Artist F. Molina Campos visited to show off his impressions of the gauchos and teach the animators about them, while real-life gaucho Don Ribeiro allowed the animators to interview and study him and his costume. Walt also kept the South American flavor in the film by choosing local songs to be in the soundtrack to Saludos Amigos. The most important of these songs was Aquarela do Brasil by Ari Barroso, which ended up inspiring an entire segment of the film. With all of their new knowledge, Walt and his crew returned home. Originally, Walt intended to release all of their work as individual shorts, but his plan later changed to releasing 4 shorts tied together as an exclusive feature for South America, which then was changed again into being released as a feature worldwide. What I find incredible is that this little decision, of all things, managed to stump Walt Disney, one of the most decisive people on Earth, for so long. He took about 2 seconds before he decided to risk everything for Snow White, but Saludos Amigos, that took months of deliberation. Due to the international flavor of the movie, Saludos Amigos was dubbed in multiple languages, with the original voice actors actually doing most of the international dubs, and each language received a different premiere in different countries. Rio de Janeiro in Portuguese on October 24, 1942, Buenos Aires in Spanish on October 6, 1942, and Boston, Massachusetts in English on February 7, 1943. So obviously Saludos Amigos is a vast departure from the movies that we looked at thus far, but how does it stack up to those more traditional films? Well, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. I've talked in the past about how I like my movies to tell one concise story. Well, obviously that isn't going to be happening for any of the next 6 films, so I judge them a bit differently. Saludos Amigos is definitely a fun film, and it certainly has more of the feel of the classic Disney shorts than the classic Disney features. I think a lot of that feel, and really a lot of the fun of the movie as well, comes from the characters who are in it. You have the established and always funny Donald Duck and Goofy being unleashed on South America, but even the new characters I thought were entertaining, particularly Jose Carioca. He has such an energy about him, and seeing him as a fan of Donald Duck I thought was pretty cool. Then again, I could be biased because I myself am a fan of Donald Duck, but I digress. The film was also amazingly short, clocking in at only 42 minutes, making it Disney's shortest feature ever. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as it's not like the actual segments get shortchanged, but it definitely makes for a brisk feature. I also thought it was interesting how they used the live action footage of the trip as the transition between the segments. It sort of gave this odd but cool blend of an animated feature and a documentary, which I think truly makes Saludos Amigos unique from any other Disney feature. I mean, come on, you get cartoons and education. How can you go wrong? The one criticism that I will put on this movie is that despite these segments attempting to tie the 4 shorts together, the movie does feel a bit disjointed. I mean, there's actually a second credit screen right in the middle of the film. How often do you see that? But really, it's hard for me to use that as an excuse for not liking the film. Each short I thought was entertaining and really just represented not only classic Disney, but I thought did a great job representing South America as well. Saludos Amigos is colorful, interesting, and all around just a fun-filled experience. Although Rockefeller promised Disney financial aid if Saludos Amigos failed, he never had to come through on that offer because Saludos Amigos had good success at the box office, something that Walt was forever proud of, and it was so successful that another feature about Latin America, The Three Caballeros, was made only 2 years later. Saludos Amigos was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, for Best Original Song for Saludos Amigos, for Best Music Score, and for Best Sound Recording, and would go on to only be re-released once, in 1949 as part of a double bill with Dumbo. I guess they figured that really short feature plus really short feature equals one normal length feature. That works, right? Jose Carioca became a star in Brazil, appearing in countless local Disney comics and still makes occasional appearances in Disney programming today. Pedro the Plane, however, actually offended Chilean cartoonist Rene Rios Bottinger, who felt that the character was a slight against Chile, so instead decided to make his own character, Condorito, which would go on to have wild success in Latin America. But to be fair, did anyone watch the Pedro short and really think of it as bashing Chile? Can't please everyone, I suppose. But the real legacy of Saludos Amigos was far more outreaching than just film and cartoons. Saludos Amigos actually helped to bring together US and Latin American cultures. The song Aquarela do Brasil, after basically living in obscurity for 3 years, exploded in popularity following its appearance in the movie, both in Brazil and in the US, becoming the first ever Brazilian song to be played over 1 million times on American radios. American audiences were surprised to see Latin American cities with skyscrapers and people wearing fashionable dresses, things that were more associated with Europe at the time, and began to change their perceptions of Latin America because of it. In fact, film historian Alfred Charles Richard Jr. claimed that Saludos Amigos did more to cement a community of interest between peoples of the Americas in a few months than the State Department had done in 50 years. So while Saludos Amigos is Disney's shortest and one of its most obscure films, it is unquestionably one of its most influential on an international scale. Well guys, that wraps it up for me this week. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think of Saludos Amigos, and if you're looking forward to any of the compilation films. Also make sure you subscribe to my channel, check out last week's video, next week's video, and check out the Disney Guy Review playlist. And I'll see you all next week.